Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Angela. This is my third video today. But as promised, I'm doing my weekly read of Memoirs of a Birth Mother by me, available on Amazon and Barnes& Noble. And so this one's actually quite a meaty chapter, so I'm going to get into it. It's chapter 6. If you haven't been following, the rest of them are on my channel. You can just go back, and they are titled Memoirs of a Birth Mother for each chapter. If you're just now joining me, this is every week I'm reading a chapter from my book. So we're on chapter 6. Let's get into it. Imagine, if you will, for a moment, you're a girl, 19 and pregnant, bumbling along on a Greyhound bus in the middle of nowhere, headed toward an unknown destination, with only the clothes on your back, with the foul smells of motor oil, body odor, and sewer backup overriding your senses, while the non-existent breeze kicks up dust through the window you are just trying to breathe through. The bathroom is out of order because someone can't read a what not to flush sign, and you've had to pee since you left the last podunk town in the middle of Texas. Becoming overheated from the desert-like prairie sun, with no air conditioning to even attempt to cool you off, you're terrified and exhausted. Somewhere in the middle of all this, you begin to realize you may have made a horrible mistake by following the man sitting next to you. Both of you headed to what appears to be the ends of the earth, because you love him, or at this point at least you think you love him. And there is, of course, the elephant on the bus, so to speak, that you are in fact carrying his child. Yet you would rather follow this man to an unknown destination with no clear future than go crawling back to mommy. Hearing her utter those words that even now you would be loath to hear, "I told you so," or "I knew you could never make it on your own." This was me. It was a lifetime ago, and yet I can still feel the dust from that God-forsaken land attempting to suffocate me. I can still feel it settling over my body, a coat of dirt and grime. I can still see my tears drying instantly on my face in the deadly heat. It was a time in my life I look back on now and cringe at the stupidity of it all. And yet I strangely admire the girl I was, with no clear path. Somehow, during the chaos I had created, I knew God would provide for me. He would protect me, even when I was being an idiot. One of my mother's favorite things she used to tell me was, "You'll never amount to anything." Sitting there on that bus, watching my future, or lack thereof, play out in the desert wind, those words were never truer than in this moment. I could almost feel her taunting me, mocking me, while her voice played over and over in my head like a broken record, from thousands of miles away. A shiver captured me as once again the madness from the past took hold. As I stated previously, stubbornness runs deep in my veins, and as I stubbornly shook off her voice, a slow, satisfied smile crept across my face. I hadn't noticed until this moment that time had seemed to stop. The past had taken hold so strongly that sounds were no more. The movement of the bus was gone, and the foulness had dissipated. It wasn't until the cloudy embers of the past disappeared and I was crudely jolted back to the present with the stopping of the bus, I realized I had been lost in a memory, a slave to my past. Back to the present, I was once again safe from the ghost that never really seemed to leave me. We had finally stopped in a big city, this time the name of which escapes me: Dallas, Austin, Houston, maybe even Amarillo. I can't for the life of me remember. I stepped off the bus into an even thicker dust ball. It was hotter than Hades, and all I wanted to do was shower and relieve myself. I got to do the latter, not knowing how long it would be before I got to do the former. I washed up in the bathroom at the shoddy little bus station and at least got some of the dust off me before it caked on permanently. With a new application of deodorant and a quick rinse of my hair, I was a new woman. As I stepped out into the scorching sun with a new outlook on my surroundings, I took in all the beauty it had to offer me. As I scanned the outcropping buildings and the sparse plant life growing around the dingy bus station, a sigh of relief hit me. I may have been lost and scared, but at least I was no longer a slave to the memory that had haunted me just moments ago. I looked out at the crowd of people I was riding the bus with fresh eyes. There were so many diverse people, and I was enjoying just watching them all interact I was just enjoying them all. I was enjoying just watching them all interact when there she was, the girl that would soon become my very best friend, the second best friend I'd ever had up to this point. She would become my friend, my confidant, my protector, my ally. Standing in the alcove by the front door of the bus station, she was smoking a cigarette and talking to none other than my boyfriend. I'm not the jealous type, and I didn't know a whole lot about the world at this point, but this struck me as odd. He was leaning in toward her, and they seemed to be in deep conversation. My heart plummeted to my knees at the intimacy of the moment. I stood there and took them both in, her not seemingly that interested, but he seemed to be more than a little invested in the moment. A little too invested for my taste. It took me years to realize if there is a sliver of doubt in your mind about the fidelity of your better half, there's probably a good reason for it. If there is no trust there, there is no relationship. His actions spoke volumes, and yet I was the innocent child that was too stupid to read the signs the universe was throwing my way. I stepped off the curb and headed for the pair as if I wasn't screaming inside at the possibility that he was flirting with her. I came upon them with a smile as wide as the Texas prairie and acted as if I hadn't just interrupted some sort of rendezvous. I walked up and put my arm around my guy and said hello to the girl in the corner. Still being the innocent girl I was, I had never seen anyone like her before. With her mismatched clothes and her dirty blonde hair that had been dyed one too many times, I got a certain dirty girl vibe from her. Never judge a book by its cover. Although they say first impressions are everything, it appeared as if she didn't care about impressing anyone. She marched to the beat of her own drummer. She walked her own path, lit her own way. I must admit the green monster of jealousy reared its ugly head. I was jealous of how much she didn't care what others thought of her. She was confident in a way that I would never be. In the way she walked, talked, even dressed, and I secretly hated her for it. The three of us struck up a conversation, and before I knew it, my hatred of her just sort of slipped away, and I became fascinated by her. What I didn't know is that she would soon become very important to me, and that in a way, God had sent me this person to save me from myself. She became my rock when everything in my life went sideways. She was this shoulder I cried on in the dark times, right after my world split in two. We got back on the bus, and this time I sat with her, two hens clucking away, as my ex would have called it. We talked and talked and talked throughout the rest of Texas and into New Mexico. It made the trip easier somehow. After having met her, even though I had no idea where we would wind up, she made me breathe a little easier. She found out that we had no destination in mind, and so invited us to stay with her and her boyfriend in New Mexico. And that, my friend, is divine intervention. I had never been anywhere before, and now I was seeing the whole country by way of a stinky old greyhound with my new friend. Suddenly I was excited. I was looking forward to a future still not quite visible. More importantly, I was excited to know that I was doing it without having to go back and grovel at my mother's feet. So here we were, the three amigos, getting off at our destination with the mountains just behind us, waiting for her boyfriend to pick us up. I was amazed at how beautiful the desert was, the hues of color splashed across the sky. I never felt closer to God than I did at this moment. I was alive. I was safe. For now. And it felt good to be there. We got picked up in a dingy little green car. The name escapes me now, but I know it is a car that no one makes anymore. Her boyfriend was okay with the stray she had picked up, meaning me. And so off we went to stay. Where I would watch, day by agonizing day, my world fell apart, just as I would watch my belly getting bigger, day by agonizing day. In this beautiful place where I felt connected to nothing and no one, despite being in one of God's most breathtaking landscapes, I still to this day have ever seen. The place where I would watch the man I loved turn into a virtual stranger, a monster, and I would become nothing more than a husk of the woman I should be. Trapped in a hell of my own making, blaming my mother, the ex, the world, and God. Yet through it all, my friend was there. She was there to witness all the pain and suffering and help me ease it the best way she knew how. She shared her darkest secrets with me, and I, in turn, was her shoulder to cry on when her demons, too, became too much to bear. She gave me the strength to do what I needed to do. How does that saying go? Those who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. I believe this was about her, as I judged her before getting to know her, and then, when I did, I felt ashamed. She had been through so much, so very much in her young life, much more than I could have ever imagined. Just when you think you have the worst possible life, someone comes along and trumps it. However, she was one of the happiest people I have ever met. Mind-blowing. Rare indeed that God had put our paths in front of one another. Of all the greyhounds in all the world, she stepped onto mine. I thank her and God every day. If not for her, who knows where I would have ended up. It just goes to show God has a plan for all of us. I think of that day often, the day we stepped off that bus together and into an unknown future, and I smile at that girl I used to be. I thank my lucky stars she was there when I needed someone the most. No matter where she goes or how far away she is, I will always remember that laughing, smiling girl with the dirty blonde hair that got me to smile, if only for a short while. Only the real horror of my past was about to begin. This was the last time in a long time I would smile and laugh as if I didn't have a care in the world, for many months. For soon the darkness would set in, and inevitably life as I knew it. Save for my friend, who is a true friend in every sense of the word. She took us in as strangers. She wiped my tears when I cried, and even stepped in with all 5'2" of her when my ex was at his worst. I can never thank her enough for being there for me and showing me that, yes, there are some people out there willing to help someone else. There are people out there willing to stand up for what's right. There are people out there that throw caution to the wind and do their own thing regardless of what the world thinks of them. And that, my friends, was chapter 6. So, tune in next week for chapter 7. If you haven't yet, please subscribe and hit that notification button so you don't miss out on the next chapter. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. And I will see you guys later. Bye.